Imagine humanity finally just having enough. Just totally fed up, dragging God into a modern, brightly lit courtroom and, charging him with fraud for ghosting us for thousands of years.
Right, which is just an incredible visual.
It really is. And that is exactly the philosophical thought experiment we are diving into today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm your host. And alongside our resident expert, we're unpacking a really wild scenario from our source material today.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating setup.
So the prosecution's argument in this trial is simple, but, it's powerful. An omnipotent being should have absolutely no trouble showing up in court.
Exactly.
And since he hasn't, he's just this millennial error. Ghosting humanity is essentially their proof of his non-existence.
And it is the absolute definition of a philosophical high-wire act.
Yeah.
The setting from the source material is this very sober clinical courtroom.
Right. No incense, no chanting.
Exactly. No mysticism at all, just clean lines and hard facts. And sitting in the gallery are some of the greatest minds of human history. You've got Newton, Einstein, Pascal, Dawkins. They're all summoned as expert witnesses.
But the defendant's bench is just empty.
Completely empty. And the defense attorney immediately sets a very, very specific ground rule for the trial. They announce, and I quote, "We are not going to claim God is innocent, nor will we claim he has appeared."
Okay, let's unpack this, because if you are the defense attorney and you start your whole opening statement by saying your client isn't innocent and isn't here, what exactly is your strategy?
Well, the goal isn't to decisively prove God exists. That's not the point.
Yeah.
The defense is aiming at a much more fundamental target here.
Which is what, exactly?
They want to examine whether the prosecution's claim that God's non-existence is an absolute certainty is actually justified.
Oh, wow.
Right. They are taking human logic and our capacity for absolute certainty and putting that on trial instead.
That is brilliant. And I want to say right up front to everyone listening, whether you are a staunch skeptic, a person of faith, or just insanely curious about how our brains process reality, this deep dive is going to fundamentally challenge exactly how you define proof.
It really will.
So to start dismantling the prosecution's claim that, absence of evidence is evidence of absence, we first have to ask a foundational question. Does humanity even have the biological hardware to process the evidence?
And that is exactly where the defense begins. They call their first witness to examine our biological limits, Professor Leonard.
Right.
And he doesn't bring a stack of theological texts to the stand.
Yeah.
He brings a tiny glass container, places it down on the rail, and inside is an amoeba proteus.
A single-celled organism.
Yeah, literally a blob of jelly. No brain, no nervous system, no language.
Wait, so the guy brings a literal petri dish into a legal trial?
He does. And he leans in, says a polite good day, and just begins trying to explain the history of the universe to this amoeba.
That is hilarious.
It's wild. He speaks in this very calm, measured voice, teaching it about complex molecules, 4 billion years of evolution, the formation of the stars.
And obviously the amoeba does absolutely nothing, right? Because it's an amoeba.
It just twitches.
Yeah.
Just a basic stimulus response to the vibration of his voice in the water.
Yeah.
But Professor Leonard keeps trading. He moves on to physics.
Gravity and stuff.
Right. Gravity, dark matter, the theory of relativity. The amoeba shifts slightly, but just because of the water pressure from him speaking.
Oh, man.
And finally, he tries to explain human consciousness, ethics, art. And the amoeba simply floats over to a microscopic crumb and engulfs it.
Phagocytosis. It's just eating.
Exactly. It's just having lunch.
It is such an absurd, hilarious visual for a courtroom. But the philosophical gut punch here is actually incredibly heavy.
It is staggering when you really think about it. Professor Leonard turns to the judge and delivers his main point. He says, "I can speak to her, I can tell her the truth, but she cannot understand me. Not because I express myself poorly, but because her cognitive framework for it simply doesn't exist."
Wow.
And then he introduces the philosopher Immanuel Kant to explain how this applies to us. Kant argued that humans think within incredibly rigid, inescapable categories.
Like what kind of categories?
Specifically space, time, cause, and effect. We can literally only process reality if it fits into those specific boxes.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because wait, isn't that a bit insulting to human intelligence? I mean, we aren't single-celled blobs just bumping into things in the dark.
Sure, we have culture and science.
Yeah, we built the James Webb Space Telescope. We understand quantum physics. The amoeba just has osmosis. Are we really that limited?
What's fascinating here is that our advanced tools, as incredible as they are, still only measure reality within our own dimensional categories.
Okay, I see.
To explain this, Professor Leonard uses the analogy of flatlanders. Picture a universe that is completely two-dimensional.
Like a drawing on a piece of paper.
Exactly. The beings there only know length and width.
Yeah.
The concepts of up and down literally do not exist in their vocabulary. Now, imagine a being from our three-dimensional world, or even a theoretical fourth-dimensional world, tries to make itself understood to them.
It simply cannot.
Right. It's physically impossible.
Because even if a 3D sphere passes through their 2D world, they wouldn't see a sphere, would they?
No, they wouldn't.
They would just see a flat circle that miraculously grows and shrinks as it passes through their plane.
Exactly. A bigger, better telescope in a 2D world still only sees in 2D.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
So if a transcendent creator exists completely outside the categories of space and time, if they are the literal author of those concepts, expecting them to squeeze into our categories to prove themselves is like expecting the amoeba to grasp the theory of relativity.
It's just a biological and dimensional impossibility.
Precisely.
So the judge makes a note. No proof, but a strong indication that God's absence does not argue against his existence, but against our capacity to comprehend him.
Which completely flips the prosecution's argument on its head.
It is a massive paradigm shift. But, even if we accept that we are limited in our perception, doesn't it stand to reason that a creator would leave some kind of recognizable fingerprint in the world they built?
And that brings us to the second witness. The courtroom dynamic shifts here from biology to narrative structure.
This part is so good.
The defense calls the famous author Thomas Mann to the stand. But Mann does not walk into the courtroom alone.
Right. The source material describes him walking in holding the hand of this knee-high, strangely flat figure.
Yes, his own fictional character.
Thomas Buddenbrook pulled straight from the pages of his novel. Buddenbrook is standing there, totally bewildered, looking around this 3D courtroom he was never designed to perceive.
It's such a surreal image. The judge leans over and asks this fictional character if he knows who the man standing next to him is.
Does he recognize his author?
Exactly. And Thomas Buddenbrook says no. He knows he is a merchant. He knows his city, his family, his trading business. But he has absolutely no concept of, page numbers or printer's ink or the mind of his author.
He doesn't even know he's made of language.
Right. Which perfectly illustrates the structural limitation of knowledge. Mann explains to the court that as the author, he exists outside of Buddenbrook's world.
Because he invented the rules of that world.
Yes. He knows its beginning and its end. Buddenbrook cannot grasp any of that, not because he is unintelligent within his own context, but because a creator exists on a level fundamentally withdrawn from the world they created.
That makes a lot of sense.
And we see this in other domains, too. The expert brings up Alan Turing's calculating machines, the precursors to modern computers.
Yeah, right.
Turing built machines that process information and solve complex logic problems. But those machines do not know the mind of Alan Turing. They only know inputs and outputs.
Yeah.
The creator always lies outside the system.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because it makes me think of a very modern analogy for this.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
It is exactly like a video game character trying to find the game developer hidden inside a treasure chest in level 4.
Oh, I love that.
Right. The developer isn't in the code, they wrote the code. You can't expect the programmer to render themselves as a playable avatar just to prove they programmed the physics engine.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
But wait, couldn't the video game character at least figure out that the code has a design? Like, they look around their digital world and say, wow, the graphics here are really consistent. Gravity always works exactly the same way.
Yes. And Thomas Buddenbrook, standing there in that courtroom, has a quiet, really profound realization of exactly that.
Really?
Yeah, he looks up at Thomas Mann, his author, and admits that sometimes everything in his life seems strangely ordered, as if it had a meaning he didn't create himself.
Wow.
He can discover the astonishing harmony of his world, the regularities and the connections, but his blindness to the author is no proof the author doesn't exist.
Because the author is just on a completely different plane of reality.
Exactly. The difference between a creator of our universe and us would be immeasurably greater than the difference between a human author and a character in a book.
Okay, so our senses are biologically limited like the amoeba, and structurally we're locked inside the code like a fictional character.
Right.
But humanity's ultimate defense mechanism is always our logic, right? We think, okay, our senses might be flawed, but our reasoning is ironclad. We are rational creatures.
And that self-assurance is completely dismantled by the next major witness, Dr. Amelia Hartman.
She does not hold back.
Not at all. She's a cognitive psychologist, and she walks into the courtroom with this calm, almost clinical bearing, just clearly prepared to make everyone deeply uncomfortable about how much we trust our own brains.
She sets up these large boards to expose our logical flaws.
She does. Her first board targets false causality. This is the incredibly common flaw, where our brains see two things happen in sequence and immediately assume the first thing caused the second.
Like the classic example of the rooster crowing just before dawn. The rooster doesn't crow the sun into rising, but to a primitive brain, it sure looks like it.
Exactly. Or how in the Middle Ages, a comet would appear in the sky. And a few weeks later, a plague would break out, so they just blamed the comet.
Right, correlation does not equal causation.
Dr. Hartman points out that our brains are desperate for patterns, so much so that we invent causal links where none actually exist.
And what was her second board?
Her second board targets false dichotomies. This is the trap of forcing reality into an either scenario when the truth is actually far more complex.
Oh, I see this all the time on the internet.
Oh, constantly. She writes on the board, either God shows himself clearly or he doesn't exist. It sounds perfectly logical on the surface, but it completely ignores all the nuanced middle ground.
But Dr. Hartman doesn't just lecture the courtroom. She actually runs an interactive demonstration to prove that high intelligence does not protect us from these reasoning errors.
And this is the centerpiece of her testimony. She uses a variation of the famous Watson selection task. And we can actually do this right now.
Oh, let's do it.
Okay, picture 4 large cards sitting on a table in front of you.
Okay, I am picturing it.
The faces of the 4 cards show an A, a 4, a D, and a 7.
A, 4, D, 7. Got it.
Dr. Hartman gives a simple rule to test. The rule is, if there is a vowel on the front of the card, there must be an even number on the back.
Okay, vowel on front means even number on back.
The question for the courtroom is, which specific cards must you turn over to definitively test if that rule is being broken?
And the courtroom in this story is packed with geniuses. Newton, Pascal, Dawkins.
The best of the best.
And almost universally, people shout out the intuitive answer. And I have to admit, when I was reading through the source material, I did the exact same thing.
Most people do. What did you guess?
I intuitively guessed, you must turn over the A and the 4. You see a vowel, you see an even number, you check both. It just feels right.
Dr. Hartman smiles and tells the courtroom, wrong.
It is so frustrating. But she explains it perfectly. Let's walk the listener through it.
Let's break down why. You have to turn over the A, obviously. It's a vowel.
Right, because if you turn it over and find an odd number, the rule is broken.
Exactly. But the second card you must turn over is the 7.
Which feels completely counterintuitive. Why the 7?
Because the 7 is an odd number. If you turn over the 7 and find a vowel on the back, the rule, if there is a vowel, there must be an even number, is violated. You have proven the rule false.
Oh, wow. Okay, and the 4, the one everyone wants to turn over.
The 4 is completely irrelevant.
Really?
Yeah, the rule doesn't say that only vowels can have even numbers. If there's a consonant behind the 4, the rule isn't broken. If there's a vowel behind the 4, it confirms the rule. But it does absolutely nothing to test if the rule is ever violated.
And turning over the D is equally useless because the rule says nothing about consonants.
Precisely.
So turning over the 4 is just our brain looking for a pat on the back. It's confirmation bias.
That is the core of it. Dr. Hartman points out that roughly 8 out of 10 people fail this test, including tenured professors and mathematicians.
That makes me feel a little better.
To explain why our brains betray us like this, she brings in the Nobel Prize-winning work of cytologist Daniel Kahneman. Kahneman discovered that human thinking operates on 2 very different systems.
System 1 and System 2, right?
Yes. System 1 is fast, automatic, intuitive, and lazy. It's the system that recognizes an angry face in a crowd or calculates 2 plus 2 instantly. System 2 is slow, calculating, analytical, and heavily energy draining.
Because the brain already consumes, what, about 20% of the body's energy? So biologically, we want to conserve power.
Precisely. Because System 2 drains so much energy, our brain defaults to System 1 whenever possible. We just grab the quickest answer that feels right, in this case, matching the vowel to the even number.
And that biological laziness leads directly to confirmation bias.
Exactly. We preferentially seek out information that confirms what we already believe, and we rigorously scrutinize or completely ignore data that might disprove it. We look for the 4, and we ignore the 7.
But if highly intelligent people consistently fail a simple four-card trick because our brains are fundamentally wired to be lazy and biased, how on earth can we trust our logic to definitively answer the greatest metaphysical question of the universe?
This raises a very important question, and it is exactly the point Dr. Hartman is driving home. If we connect this to the bigger picture, science is our most reliable tool for finding truth, precisely because it operates on the assumption that human thinking is deeply flawed.
Oh, that's a great point.
The scientific method relies on blind trials, peer review, and a willingness to discard failed theories because it knows individual scientists are human and subject to System 1 errors.
Right.
So if our logic routinely fails at a simple card game, the prosecution cannot claim absolute, infallible certainty about the non-existence of a transcendent creator. Unknowing is not proof in either direction.
So we've witnessed the sheer biological limits with the amoeba. We've seen the structural limits of narrative with the author and the character. And the myth of flawless human logic has been thoroughly busted by the cognitive psychologist.
It's been quite a day in court.
After all this, the trial has to come to a close. How does a judge rule when absolute certainty has been systematically taken off the table?
Before Judge Johannes delivers the verdict, the source material briefly acknowledges the harmony of all the other experts who testified. We didn't have time to dive into all of them, but they all echoed this same profound limitation.
Right. There were a lot of other witnesses.
Yeah, the historian took the stand and showed that every single scientific generation believes they have the final, ultimate answer, and every generation is proven wrong by the next.
And the epistemologist proved that human memory isn't a flawless video recording. It is a fragile, constantly shifting reconstruction.
Exactly. And the neuroscientists demonstrated that while we can map synapses and measure brain waves, we cannot locate or measure consciousness itself. We can't put the subjective feeling of I under a microscope.
When you look at all of human knowledge collectively like that, it points to a reality that is far more ambiguous, chaotic, and deeply layered than a purely materialist, predictable worldview allows.
And this brings us to the silence in the courtroom, as Judge Johannes prepares to deliver the final verdict.
You can just imagine the tension.
He picks up his file, looks out the gallery, and makes a profound philosophical distinction. He says that the God being discussed here isn't an object in the universe to be discovered like a new planet.
Right, he's not a principle or a mechanical force.
No. If this God exists, he is a personal ground of reality. And here's the absolute key to the entire trial. A God who deeply respects human freedom.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because why would absolute proof destroy freedom? If someone tells me the truth and proves it, I'm still free to do what I want with that information, aren't I?
Are you? Consider the implications of absolute, undeniable proof. Imagine you wake up tomorrow and a giant hand from the heavens has literally rearranged the stars to spell out, I am real. Obey.
That would be terrifying.
Exactly. Mathematical, terrifying, undesirable clarity. If a creator were to reveal himself with that level of overwhelming power, it would completely obliterate genuine human freedom.
Because love and trust cannot be commanded at gunpoint.
Exactly.
If you have the ultimate, omnipotent power of the universe visibly hovering over your head, you don't choose to trust them out of love. You comply out of sheer, raw survival instinct.
A decision is only truly free if the possibility of not making it also exists. If you have undeniable proof, you have no choice. Therefore, freedom fundamentally requires the oxygen of doubt.
Wow.
In this philosophical framework, God's hiddenness isn't evidence of his absence. It is the necessary condition for genuine human freedom, altruism, and relationship to exist at all. Without the freedom to doubt, we are just biological robots responding to an overwhelming stimulus.
So what does this all mean? For you, listening right now, whether you are prepping for a boardroom debate, reading an article that makes you furious, or just looking up at the stars trying to make sense of things, this deep dive is a massive, humbling reminder to check our own blind spots.
It really is.
It challenges us to look out for false dichotomies, to realize when we're using lazy System 1 thinking instead of slowing down for System 2 analysis. It reminds us that our cognitive framework might just be an amoeba trying to understand a telescope.
It is a profound call for intellectual humility, and Judge Johannes reads the final moments of the trial perfectly aligned with that humility.
How does he close it?
He states that the court cannot and will not decide if God exists, but it can decide that the prosecution's claim that his non-existence is a scientific and philosophical certainty is unjustified.
The defendant did not appear.
But his absence is no proof against him. And with that, the gavel falls. The proceedings are concluded.
Wow. We have covered an incredible amount of intellectual ground today. We've gone from single-celled organisms in a petri dish to fictional characters discovering their author, all the way to the cognitive traps in our own minds and the true meaning of freedom. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it left you feeling not overwhelmed, but profoundly expansive.
And to leave you with one final, lingering thought that builds on everything we've explored today. Think about Dr. Hartman's cognitive biases and Thomas Mann's hidden author. What if the universe is intentionally designed like a puzzle that can never be fully solved by our System 1 or System 2 thinking?
Oh, that's interesting.
What if the act of searching, doubting, and yearning is actually the entire purpose of human consciousness? If we had undeniable mathematical proof of everything, would curiosity, science, and even love instantly lose their meaning?
Such a fantastic question to chew on. Keep questioning your own absolute certainties, keep exploring the murky waters, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.